you've had some pretty harsh words for the red pill community, right?
Mm-hmm.
You said that lifestyle is kind of not fulfilling. It's all materialistic. They're all about cars, clothes, houses, hoes, bitches. It's just very sort of unfulfilling, all right? And I think you've even called yourself blue pill. So where do you stand on this whole red pill, blue pill, this whole sexual interdynamics, blue pill, red pill game? Where do you stand?
It's hard to have one pill. I think that red pill guys make a lot of accurate descriptions or observations about sexual dynamics. When they talk about what men want and what women want, generally speaking, sexually, it's usually true-ish, but they kind of run off into some weird areas. I think the things that they focus on are a little bit negative sometimes. But it's going to depend specifically what we're talking about. Yeah.
Okay, so what do you fundamentally disagree with the red pill space, and then what do you agree with?
What do I fuck? It's so hard because there's so many different types of red. So for instance, I might say that it feels like there's an over fixation sometimes on the material sometimes when it comes to having cars, houses, you gotta hustle. I hate hustle culture. Everything around hustle culture I think is really toxic. But whenever I confront red pill guys on this, they'll always say well, we don't talk about that. We just say men need to be the best versions of themselves. And they'll usually give a more laid back kind of show. It's okay, well, if you're saying that, I agree with you. I noticed that I don't know if his messaging has changed, but it felt like Andrew Tate was very fixated on Bugattis and all this kind of wealth shit. But then I've heard recently him say stuff sometimes 50 a year might be your thing, and that might be the thing that you excel at and be the best you can be at that, which I think is a much better message. But yeah, it's going to depend on the particular message and the particular person and whether or not I'm on the show, I think, on how radical their message is going to be.
How about this? Let me put it this way. If there's one person in the red pill space, whoever you want to identify in that space, that you say, all right, that's my favorite guy. No matter if we agree or disagree, that's the guy that I would say, all right, I identify most with, or I at least is
I don't
most
know if there'd
palatable.
be anybody that I'd be comfortable.
Nobody.
I don't think so. That I'd be yeah, go watch this. I would never recommend any of the. Yeah, no, I don't think so. I think I'd be fighting with most of these people for most things.
Fresh and Fit, Andrew Tate, Rolo,
for sure. We disagree on a ton of stuff. Yeah.
None of these guys, you wouldn't recommend one of them. They're all put together. There's not one person you're all right, at the very least. Zero?
I don't think so. No, I don't think so.
Not even your boy Sneeko?
Definitely not.
Really?
We super disagree on a lot of things related to relationships.
So
and
there's
stuff,
nobody that you would say they're doing a good job, or at least I like their message.
I guess if I can recommend one episode, maybe when Myron talks about, men being the best versions of themselves and getting women and wealth is a byproduct of improving yourself and focusing yourself. If that's the only message that he's pushing, or if that's the primary one, then when he's saying that stuff, I agree 1,000,000%. Well, absolutely. And I would say that's a really positive message. It's good to have men like him to look up to push that message. 100%. Talk about investing, talk about working, talk about being responsible. That's good. But when they fly into the other things, talking about women and some of the sexual relationship stuff, it gets a little bit weird. But yeah, it's just going to depend on people say so many different things. It's hard. I say a lot. I'm sure you've seen in your whatever research of me. I've said a lot of shit where it's on some things with Steven, 100%, but on other things he's fucking wild. So I don't know if anybody. I would never expect a wholesale endorsement from somebody.
Gotcha.
And I feel the same about Red Pill community.
That's in any political poll or Q scores, they give favorable and unfavorable. Sure. So obviously you're not going to agree with 100% everything says and 0% of it. There's no disagreement, but there's somebody, if somebody has a 60% approval rating and a 38% disapproval, that's a pretty good thing for the polls. So that's actually essentially what I'm asking.
It would probably be based on the new stuff I've heard Andrew Tate say. He'd probably be the highest at 55 or 60 approval, maybe. But he's on this weird Islamic shit now, and I've heard him say a lot of other stuff that's crazy, and it's hard to separate the clips from the full videos from the timeline. So
gotcha.
I'll tacit maybe sort of a little bit say maybe
tacitly Tate. And maybe. Who's the bottom of your list? You're that guy's the worst. He sucks. I would never.
Any of the older red pill stuff was real, the big PUA, Big Tau, all of that crazy shit from 5 years ago. All of that would be bad. Nowadays, I don't watch a lot of red pill stuff, such that I can't give you a wholesale endorsement or disendorsement of a red pill person. Yeah.
If there's again, this is me putting on my judgmental hat.
Good.
Because you made a joke with Sneeko, you're yeah, I'm bi, but don't get any ideas, buddy. If there was anyone in the red pill space, you're yeah, they're attractive. I'm not saying I would, but I would. Who's the hottest guy in that space? Who would you find the most attractive?
That is
in the red
absolutely not a question I'm gonna answer.
Really?
Not that weird. No, I can't. No.
Okay, but there's someone in your mind.
No, not even.
I
actually don't generally. My relationship with men is really different. Yeah, with women I might think, but not with men. I just don't tend to think of it that way.
Okay, all right. I won't push you too much on that, but there's probably someone in mind.
No, there's probably not.
Okay. How about you? Is there anybody in the red pill space you're like, if I could pick one guy, you know, if Steven let me kind of dip out one day, you know, that Tate guy, I'd give it to him. Nobody?
No.
So nobody in the red
I
pill
don't
space.
think so, no.
So you're not into like alpha men, big strong men. You're more.
I don't think they're big and strong. I think they're really pathetic.
You think who's pathetic?
All of them.
Yeah, Tate specifically.
I think all of them are. Like, they seem extremely insecure to me, and I like security. I like confidence in a man, and I don't think any of them are very confident.
Really? Because that's the exact opposite approach. That
About that, what they want. Yeah, they want to look really confident. But
So
like the way
you're-
they act, like if you look at the situations they end up in and like how they speak, no, it sounds very insecure to me.
So you look at someone like Andrew Tate, you know, who's sort of the poster child of the red pill space. Obviously, it was Kevin Samuels for a long time. Rest in peace. You look at someone like him, or even like Myron, or any of these guys. You think that they're insecure?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
What?
Because I feel like
I've
whenever
heard a lot of things, but insecure is not on the list.
we took this as an example, if there's a guy that's like, get away from me, like that's gay, bro. Like if that, like if it really feels like that makes you less masculine, like ever thinking about being in touch, like even like hugging a dude is like, if it really if you feel so bad about it, I think there's a lot of insecurity that comes out of it.
Who feels sad about it? What do you mean feel?
If they feel bad about it, if they feel so scared or like coming off as gay or anything like that, and they're like, no, bro, like to me it just looks like insecurity. A guy that's like, yeah, I like to suck dick sometimes, there's a lot more confidence because that's a lot to fucking say.
Okay,
you know?
that is
like,
so
in society.
backwards, Melina. So
It's
a
not
guy,
very backwards at all.
who's
I
like,
think
yo,
it's
bro,
a
I'm not
lot
gay. Keep
forward.
that shit elsewhere. That's insecure. But a guy who's like, yeah, I'll suck some dick. That's secure.
It doesn't have to be sucking dick, but it could be
You-
like you would.
you said
but
it,
let's say that a guy is like, I love you, man, like, or if they're like showing emotion, or if they're even crying, like at some point they get really emotional about something, because that's something that a lot of men are having an issue with too, like showing some sort of emotion or crying about something. You know, especially these guys are they will never ever do that. If they do, I think that takes a lot more. And if they can like be like, no, it's okay to be upset sometimes.
Well,
if
I
I
think
do
that-
lose my job, it's okay for me to be upset. It's a lot more confidence than it is to
Well,
just be like, no, I would never do that.
To be clear, you can show emotions as a guy, but that doesn't mean you have to be emotional. There is a difference.
Well, there's for a lot of these
But
red pill
that's
guys,
the
they say
thing,
like
right?
you can never be emotional around your woman because they might leave you immediately.
Yeah, that's
I-
an insecurity right there.
Yeah, I agree, but I mean, to an extent, yes. If you're just a crying, whiny bitch,
No
yeah,
one's
she
saying
should
that. It doesn't
leave
have
you.
A
to
lot of
be
these
that.
people, let me
However-
wait real quick. Let me
Yeah.
restate. A lot of these guys say that you should never, not a single time,
Yeah.
never risk showing emotional vulnerability to a woman.
No,
That's
okay.
what they'll say. Yeah,
But that depends on your relationship. I'll give you an example. So 3 years ago, I was with a girl. Okay, in that space, in that 3-month period, my girl got cancer. I cried because I love my girl. We cried together when she found out she had cancer. Okay, and then 3 months later, my dad died. Okay, so red, blue, green, yellow. In that 3-month period, I cried. I probably hadn't cried in years. But that was a very, very tough spot to be in. And like, if whether you're red pill, blue pill, I don't give a fuck what pill. If your girl gets cancer and your dad died and you can't cry and express your emotion, that's a problem, bro. That's a robot. Nobody's a robot.
Yeah, I would agree. Yeah, I'd agree. I'm just repeating what they've said.
No, I know.
I think there was a time even when I was on Pressure Fit, and I want to feel like there was another guy to the right of you.
Yeah, and they were saying, don't ever show
Yeah, and I think I
emotions to
literally
them.
you
Don't ever
think
cry,
anything,
ever.
if anything happens, your parents die. It's
but-
like if you risk it, your woman will look at you differently.
Anything that says ever, always, all, zero, it's such a far-fetched hyperbolic comment. It's not a binary thing where it's like never cry or always cry. It's like, well, sometimes shit happens and you need to fucking show emotion.
I think
That's
the problem.
that's humanity.
The problem is the things that they fixate on show an error in the thought process. Whether or not you actually kind of hinted at it, whether or not you cry around a woman has no bearing on how that woman views you. It's going to be what is your general emotional stability.
I
right?
think I agree to an
yeah.
extent, but I also disagree because it depends what you're crying about.
Well, that's
If you're
what I'm saying. It
crying-
speaks to your general emotional
Like,
stability. If your father dies,
Yes.
like Jesus Christ, of course you're going to have a reaction to
course.
that. But if you're like crying every single day because like your boss was rough at work and you come home and you're like a breakdown, then yeah, obviously people are
Precisely.
yeah. But that doesn't have to do with like you crying. People
Yes.
fix it. It just has to do with the fact that this guy is like super emotionally unstable.
Yes.
Right. Yeah.
Because there's levels to this thing.
Yeah.
You know, there's levels to this game. So like, you know, father dying, girl gets cancer, 1 through 10, those are 10s.
Yeah.
Feel free to cry at a 10. But, you know, if you ordered the hamburger and they brought you a cheeseburger and has cheese and you start crying, that's a 1. If you're crying there, homie, like,
But that's
get
like
it together.
that's like you need therapy. You know,
Exactly.
that's what that is. Yeah,
Well, I
and
would
I
say
agree.
anything 1 through 8, if you're crying, it's
Yes.
like, That's pretty fucking.
But the thing about all these red pill guys that we were mentioning
Yeah.
are the guys that would say never ever show emotion.
Yeah, I think.
And that
That's for
is an
your bros.
insecurity. That is
Yeah.
an insecurity.
But anytime that you use the word ever or all or everyone, that's where you're going to lose an argument, whatever it is, because there's always exception to the rule. Okay, and if you're using blanket statements, that's going to be problematic. So if you like that clip, click right here to watch another, or if you want to watch the entire Soscast, click right here.